this is running. Okay. I'll just introduce by saying I'm Julie Rock. I'm from the University of West Georgia, and I'm here interviewing. Will you state your whole name?
Miriam Simon Kazi.
Thank you so much. We're here to talk about the history of Antioch AME, and in the room also are Elaine Washington Hunter and Calvin Washington, who are also going to be interviewed, and Robin Morris is here from Magna Scott. Thank you for sitting down today, and I'll just start by asking you to tell me a little bit about your background. When and where were you born?
I was born in Decatur, Georgia, at the Cap Medical Center, and
do you mind saying the year?
I was born in 1962, November 27th, 1962.
And will you tell a little bit about your family, your background, your parents or brothers and sisters?
I grew up in a blended family. My mother and my father were both members of Antioch. My mother passed when I was 2 years old. My father remarried when I was 5, and my stepmother became a member of Antioch. So my stepmother is really the only mother I've known, so she's my mother. And we grew up as a family. I have 2 sisters and 1 brother. And
did you grow up near the church?
Yes. I grew up near the old church that was on Atlanta Avenue. We were about maybe a mile or 2 miles from there.
Okay. So just after you were born, the church had moved to Atlanta/Hibernia Avenue, is that right?
Yes. Yes.
And your family had been members for generations?
Yes. My father's family, my father's parents were members of Antioch. They moved to Decatur in the 1920s, and they were members since then.
Do you mind saying their names?
Yes. My grandfather was Boykin Simon, and my grandmother was Hattie Simon.
Okay, wonderful. What are your earliest memories of the church?
My earliest memories are the choir singing, being in Sunday school every Sunday, mainly just being at the church a lot and knowing everybody. It was a smaller church and everybody was family and related in some way, it seems like. So just knowing everybody.
And we'll come back to the church, and there's some specific questions about the church, but will you also describe Beacon Hill, or what your childhood was like growing up in Decatur?
I guess I don't really know much about Beacon Hill. I know my father grew up in that area, and he attended Herring Street. And I grew up on the other side of Decatur behind Agnes Scott. So the church was over on Atlanta Avenue, and I remember a few businesses were there. Miss Starr's Beauty Salon, where my mother used to go to get her hair done. We used to go to Epster Recreation Park, swimming, and go to the park over there. So that's really all I know about Beacon Hill. I know a lot of people lived in the projects that were around Epster, but I don't really remember much about growing up in that. Much about that area when I was growing up.
Where did you do your schooling, your elementary schooling?
I went to Our Lady of Lourdes Elementary School, and that was downtown. So my mother used to drive us down every day.
Wow. And what did your parents do for work?
My dad worked at Lockheed Martin, and my mother was a homemaker.
Oh, wow. So did he drive up?
Yes.
Wow. That's cute.
Yes.
And you're going to talk about your brothers and sisters before I interrupted, but were they older or younger, or?
My brother is the oldest, and then I have an older sister and a younger sister.
Do you mind saying their names?
My brother's name is James Simon, and my sister is Monica P. Millines. My younger sister is Mita Simon. And we were the 3 M's. So.
How often would you, we talked about your earliest memories of Antioch, but how often would you be there on a given week?
Um, in a week's time, I would say we were probably there maybe 4 days a week, 3 to 4 days a week, between going to choir rehearsal and club meetings with my mom, or some type of meeting, usher board meeting, Sunday school, church, and then a lot of times there were programs in the evening on Sunday, so we would go back to church on Sunday evenings. So we were there a lot during the week, I would think.
And what was your mother, what types of clubs was she involved in the church?
She was a member of the GC Tarot Club, I remember, and I think they were called the Fidelity Club before then. She was also, well, I spent a lot of time with my aunts too. My aunt was a member. My aunts, all of them were members of the Missionary Society, the Stewardess Board. So between going either with my mother or with one of my aunts to the church, let me see, Missionary Society, Stewardess Board, Fidelity Club. I can't remember any more of the club names, but there were a lot of them.
Do you remember what the GC Tarot Club, which had been the Fidelity Club, what that was focused on? What kind of works it was focused on?
They were more of a women's social club, and they were also, they would also do missionary work or community work, doing baskets for the community, doing things during the holidays for the community.
And then you mentioned programs on Sunday evenings. Were
Yes.
those related to church teachings, or were they something different?
They were both, I guess. I remember usher board anniversaries, choir anniversaries, and it would always be more of a full service, a program with like another church service during the evening.
Was your father involved in any of the groups related to the church?
Over the years, he was a trustee, I think. He was also, he was an usher. I was going to say usher. He was an usher. And he was just around. The men of the church used to do things, so we would be there if they were repairing something, or just on Saturdays cleaning up. My uncle was the custodian. My father's oldest brother was the custodian, so we were there with him cleaning up the church sometimes.
What was his name?
His name was Willie J. Simon.
And what about programs for children? So when you were young, were there specific programs or groups for children?
Yes, we were in the children's choir, the YPD, which was the Young People's Department, and that was sort of missionary training, I guess, to teach you how to work in the church and things to do. Children's usher board, and then Vacation Bible School. During the summer, when I was growing up, Vacation Bible School was a whole week, and it was during the day, and we were at church all day we would learn Bible verses, we would learn songs, we would do arts and crafts. It was just, again, kind of like family. We would have holiday programs, Christmas, Easter, Black History. We would do a full Black History program. I can't think of what else. But there was a lot for children to do.
I'm curious to know more about the holiday programs, and then I'm going to come back to some of the others you mentioned.
Okay.
What do you remember about just starting with the Christmas program when you were young?
We would do speeches. Everyone would have a Christmas speech. Everybody would be dressed up. Plays. And then we would always get something the church would always give us something for Christmas. Candy, or a stocking, or there was always something, some gift.
And would the speeches be Wednesday that children wrote, or would they be, reciting a gospel verse or?
They were, I guess, from books, speeches from books. So some of them might be scriptural, or some of them might have just been rhymes. But
what about Easter programs?
It would be the same. It would be plays and speeches. We would have an Easter egg hunt. A long time ago, the Easter egg hunt used to be on Easter Monday because we'd be out of school the Monday after Easter also. And I just remember everybody having speeches and going to Easter rehearsal. We would start rehearsing maybe 2 months before Easter before Easter came, and just go to rehearsal every week.
What were the hunts on the grounds?
Yes. Yes.
And for Black History Month programs, do you remember the content of any of those?
Yes. When I was younger, I'm telling my age, I know, but it was Black History Week. So we would have, everybody would be given a person to learn about, and we would do our presentations during church. And it would be more or less the whole program would be Black History, where everybody would present the person they learned about.
Would that have been in February? Is it still the same way it is now?
Yes. It was in February, yeah.
We found really interestingly, I'm pointing to Elaine and Calvin, but we found these great services from the 1920s and 30s of Douglass celebrations around Frederick Douglass's birthday.
Oh, okay.
And so I wonder if that was a continuation of those earlier services. It's really neat. Who was pastor when you were young?
Reverend Dr. Flanagan was the first pastor I remember. And he used to come to Sunday school. He would take us, one thing I remember about him, he took us to Underground Atlanta. He had a Cadillac, and we would all be in his Cadillac going to Underground Atlanta. And we also would go to, I can't even remember what you call it now, but it was at Marshfield College every year. It was part of the conference, I guess. The Sunday School Convention.
And the leadership conference.
Yes, the leadership conference. We would go there every year. But Dr. Flanagan is the first pastor I remember. And then after Dr. Flanagan, was it Reverend Few? Adams. Oh, Reverend Adams. I don't know them in order. Okay.
Was that, so when, for example, Dr. Flanagan took y'all on trips, was that maybe with like the YDP, or would he just take young people on trips?
I guess it was the YPD mostly, because the missionaries would go, Miss Dixon, some of the ladies would also be there, so I guess it was the YPD.
Were there other events that you remember in addition to kind of the major holidays at the church? For example, homecoming, Founders Day.
I remember homecoming. Homecoming used to be in July, the second Sunday in July, I think, or third Sunday. And it was a big celebration where everybody would bring food, and you always knew kind of what everybody was bringing, I guess. Who was going to bring cakes, who was going to bring food. So, and I love cake, so I knew who was bringing cake. But I remember the homecoming celebrations being a very big deal.
Did you have a sense of the history of the church? Because by that time it was almost 100 years old, or was 100 years old as you were coming up.
I remember the history being read, being in the program every year and being read.
Did your grandparents ever talk about what Antioch was like when they first moved to Decatur in the 20s and 30s?
I remember my aunts and uncles and my dad talking about what it was like. Yeah. When it was the old church on Mitchell. Marshall Street. I remember hearing them talk about it.
What do you remember about Sunday services? So with Dr. Flanagan, let's say, what were his Sunday services like?
I guess I was so young when he was there. I remember him because of his hair, and I remember he used to yell. That was that was my memory of him. I guess I remember more of the pastors as when I was a teenager, a young adult, but Dr. Flanagan, I remember his hair. I remember him taking us places. I remember Reverend Adams he had a daughter my sister's age, so we kind of spent a lot of time with him and his family. Sunday, am I talking about Sunday services or pastor? I'm sorry, Sunday services.
Either one.
Okay.
We're happy to collect any and all.
Okay. The Sunday services, I remember going to Sunday school and then church afterward. And if we were singing in the choir or ushering, we would do that. If not, we would just be seated in the audience mostly. I remember being told to be quiet a lot. And the services just, I like the services growing up more, I guess, because we sung hymns, and now we don't really sing hymns in church, but I really like hymns, like the singing has always been my favorite. More so, I guess, than the sermons when I was younger, because I would listen, but I didn't really understand. And as I got older and read the Bible more, and then it would click what I heard when I was younger. But I remember just being in service and the choir was my favorite part.
Did the church hold, I think something we found in our research is that there were these kind of public events I mentioned, Douglas's birthday. Was the church, did it hold other public events where folks from the community would come?
I don't remember at the old church, but then again, I may not have been just that involved in it. I know since we moved here, we've had a lot of public events, a lot of political events, but at the old church, well, I take that back. I do remember, I guess around election time, more, there would be events, I guess.
Would those be like speakers about candidates or?
Yeah.
Was the church, my next question actually, and something I'll ask both of you, was the church's involvement in political movements of the time. 1960s, of course, civil rights movement had been in place, but was still, going on and, affecting change. Do you remember anything related to the church and the civil rights movement? I know you've been young.
No, not really.
And how has the church changed since you've been a member?
Um,
Since your childhood?
It's grown a whole lot. I guess there are more people. It doesn't seem as connected sometimes to me. Connected in different ways, I guess. When I was younger and everybody lived around the church or near the church, it was more, I don't know how to say it. I guess people seemed like they were closer and knew more about each other and what was going on. Yeah, more family oriented. Now, there's a lot of people and a lot of different events going on, and a lot of times I feel like I'm just kind of lost. I don't know everything. I don't know what's going on. But I don't think it's bad. I think growth is good. So even though it's different, there's still some connection, not as close it seems like, but some connection.
And have you been an active member throughout your adulthood too?
Yes, pretty much. Yeah.
So what did you go on to do in terms of your school and life and career and family?
Well, I went to college here in in Atlanta, and I worked for AT&T for 18 years, and now I'm doing more social services, so I'm still working in the community, but family, I was married, I have 2 kids, I have 3 grandkids, and my family has always been a member of the church, and I've been more active when I was younger than I am now in Sunday school and everything, so I'm trying to get active again, but I've always been involved, but sometimes more heavily than others.
If you,
Oh, I play the piano, so that's one thing I didn't mention that I grew up doing.
wow.
So I played piano for the Sunday school from, I don't know, about 8 or 9 maybe until I was a teenager, and then I started playing for other churches, but I still played at Antioch too. And I've played for the youth choir. My cousin she was the music director for a long time, so I played along with her or whenever she wanted me to. And then I've played as an adult for the Sunday school for different things.
How did you learn as a child?
Learn piano.
Mm-hmm.
My mother, we had lessons starting probably first grade, I think, and I had lessons all the way up through college, piano and then organ, and then I dabble on the guitar a little, but not much, not as much as I like.
I'm curious too, on when you were involved in the YPD and other youth organizations, did y'all ever do, I don't know, organize, or were you social with other churches in the neighborhood like Lily Hill or any of those churches?
Yes.
What kinds of things would y'all do together?
Choir anniversaries or concerts, I guess. Vacation Bible School. We would go to Vacation Bible School at Thankful, at Lily Hill, and just go to different programs there. I guess my family had family at both Thankful, at Lily Hill, and then at some churches in Scottsdale, so we were always going to a church somewhere every Sunday. Or even during the week, we were just always at a church somewhere.
What would you have, so if someone listens to this 100 years from now, what would you think, what are some of the things that you want that person to know about the history of Antioch or your time at Antioch, how it's changed, anything like that?
I want them to know that Antioch is the oldest Black church in Decatur, and to know that community used to be a very close-knit community, and that I guess the church is still active, even though we're not in Decatur itself, in the city of Decatur, that we're still active in DeKalb County and still welcome everyone to come.
Thank you. Would y'all like me to ask anything else, or do you think I missed anything? Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
I'll turn off
You're
the
welcome.
recorders.
Okay.